Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Param Bhuya Pavakshami Blessed Lord said, again, I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained to supreme perfection. Text 2. Idam jnanam upashritam sadhanam Magatam becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature, which is like my own nature. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation, nor disturbed at the time of dissolution. Text 3. Mama yonir mahadama tasmin garbham didhamyam sambhavasavapithala bhavati paritam. Substance called brain is the source of birth, and it is that brain that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharat. 4. Sarvavanesha kanteya sambhavantiya should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Text 5. This is the last text, right? Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhavaha to consist of the three worlds: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When a living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. Real quick, in the shloka, there's these words, Mahabaho. Does anybody know what this means? Yes, material life is spot on. Mighty armed one. Krishna says this to Arjuna repeatedly throughout the Gita. Okay, text 30 of chapter 13, which is nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. Prakrithaiva cha karmani karmani sarvasam impashati tapatmanam makatam sapashyati. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Prepared by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This body is made by material nature under the direction of the super soul, and whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are what it's doing. Whatever it's supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. Self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given the body with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. This is really interesting. Prabhupada says, because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. We often think of enjoyment being the opposite of difficult circumstances, especially when we understand the philosophy presented in the Bhagavad Gita, that this world, this material creation is just temporary and filled with suffering, filled with misery. So the happiness that we can see that we've achieved in our past, or that we see others seemingly experience in this world around us, is only a temporary cessation of the inevitable suffering. So it's interesting how Prabhupada puts it this way. You know, our desires are driving us from one body to the next. And another thing Prabhupada pointed out here says to fulfill desires, one is given the body with which he can act accordingly. And you know, Jagannath Prabhu was mentioning yesterday, different beings are given different bodies, and they can't really break the mold of how that body is supposed to act in the world. You know, the squirrel is going to collect nuts. He's going to climb on a tree. The cat is going to chase little bugs all night long. You can walk outside and see them. They're always running around doing things. But the human being is special. And I'm going to tell you why the human being is special. Foxes are intelligent. Owls are intelligent. Robert Fuller. Sorry, I hear this fan behind me. Yeah, he has a chance to get out of the material nature. I'm reminded of a pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where there was a dog who also got the chance to be free from the material nature. This is a special case of the Lord's mercy. But the human, as a faculty for higher consciousness, we can understand, we can reason, we can use our intelligence like you mentioned. It's more than just intelligence. It's a higher consciousness of understanding that's there innately in us. And if we utilize that, then we could come to what Jagannath said, we can become free from the material way of living. I remember I was in New York, in the middle of and there was a homeless person there at the Harinam, and he was intoxicants. He was stumbling around, immensely so, stumbling for a really, really long time, at least like half an hour. Like I was watching him, and there's thousands of people walking by left and right, and he's just standing in the public. And I started thinking, like, oh, this is really bad. What's the difference between him and the animals? I was thinking that the animal has to act according to its own well-being. It's going to go and collect food. It's going to build a human being is at a position where we can choose to act. Sorts of you can actually be responsible for all these things and be responsible for another one, be responsible for one, be responsible for the highest dharma, which is serving the Supreme Person of Godhead. So we have that choice. We can actually act in a way that brings us closer to God, or we can act in a way that keeps us enjoying in different bodies on the material plane, or we can act in a way that brings us down lower and lower and lower to bodies that are more covered by this ignorance, which is just more and more suffering. And Krishna, he says in the 16th chapter, he says, Yes, Shastra Vidam Uchaja Vartate Kama Karata Nasa Siddham Avapnoti Nasukam Parangatim. He says, one who disregards these guidance, these rules and regulations coming from the scriptures and acts according to their own whimsical ways, Vartate Kama Karata, One attains neither happiness nor perfection or the supreme destination. I mean, think about that. Before Krishna consciousness, before we heard from the devotees, before we heard from the Shastra, we were all acting in our own whimsical ways. And what was there? Happiness, distress, happiness, distress, happiness, distress. It's just a mental plane. We gravitate to the next thing. Actually, this. Just do it this way. Just do it like this. It's not this person's fault. Maybe if I do it, with these people, it'll be better. Just one excuse after the next excuse. So a devotee looks beyond this and sees this bigger picture that's coming through the scripture. And one other thing I was thinking about reading these verses, I didn't prepare or read this at all. I personally like to read the chapters and see how Krishna's words are coming to be. And we can read 10 shlokas at a time and just dissect that for what it is. But if you take a step back, you can see, why is Krishna actually speaking these shlokas? What's the theme of the chapter? Why is this chapter even being spoke about? What was Arjuna asking before? What is Krishna speaking on to provoke this? And this way you can get more of a clear picture of what's actually going on, because Krishna is speaking a conversation with Arjuna. In a conversation you have with somebody, you just kind of bounce back and forth these different vibes and different ideas, and different thoughts, different things are provoked, different things open up. So it's important to not take away from that the flow of the conversation of the Bhagavad Gita, but also equally important to study each shloka and amplify the magnitude. But what I was thinking is that Krishna, he speaks many things in the Bhagavad Gita that are very common. Yeah, it's similar, but he's speaking them on different ways that provokes a different context. And similarly, when we also read the Srimad Bhagatam or other of these Shastras, more and more of these aspects are opened up, where it will talk about the same points, but because it's talked about in a different scenario with different personalities, different circumstances, and different words, then it can broaden our vision much deeper and deeper. So I really like that. It's nice that we can see these points from different perspectives, because Krishna is presenting the absolute truth, which is always true. This world, it's a common thing nowadays that people think, okay, I live in my truth and you live in your truth, and I respect you for that, and please have respect for me. But when it comes to mathematics or things that we need or directions, then it's clear we can say, okay, no, there's a truth. There's only one way. This is the false ego. We build this wall around this because we don't want little fake worlds of what we think will bring us pleasure and satisfaction and reality, essentially. As we hear from Shastra and we hear from the devotees, this false ego begins to become cut more and more. To the extent that we allow to enter our hearts. There's a big difference between knowing and actually applied knowledge, like true wisdom. So you could read the Bhagavad Gita front and back over and over and over. Still not actually have the essence of what's there. That Krishna speaks these similar topics in a variety of ways. Leads me to this next text. I'll just read real quick. Sensible man ceases to see different identities which are due to different material bodies. He attains to the Brahman conception. Thus he sees that beings are expanded everywhere. Everybody give me an example of a shloka in the Bhagavad Gita that this shloka reminds them of. at least is connected in some way. I can think of at least two. Shri Gurunata Ki Jai. Yes, Magadhari Prabhu. So,
this verse speaks about the sun illuminating the universe, the material universe.
what is it? Sensible man ceases to see different identities, which are due to different material bodies, he attains to the Brahman conception. Thus he sees that beings are expanded everywhere.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I don't have anything.
Yeah, you have one? Okay, Mathura now.
The learned sage sees with equal vision gentle brahmana, an elephant, a dog eater, and a dog outcast with
Yes.
equal vision.
Nityavanam Sambhari Galistani Suchanis Papaki Pandita Samadarshina. I could see that there's a spirit soul within the body. The body's not actually alive. The body's dead. I just saw a video of that was taken when I was in the north, and he was giving a lecture. He was talking about death. Like, who cares about death? Death is not actually a big deal. This body is alive. The body is always dead. It's the soul that's alive. It's alive. So Krishna speaks this verse that he speaks this verse in the 18th chapter. It says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochatina Kanchiti Samasareshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktin Labhate. He says, Samasareshu Bhuteshu. When he sees equal, you can see the spiritual essence underlying of life. And this way one becomes not bewildered. And when it comes to that Brahman conception, this Brahman platform, one neither hankers for anything or laments for anything. And there's another verse in Srimad Bhagatam that I really like. It's Naresh Shabikshnam Mad Bhavam from Sol Bhavayatran Charat Smadha Suryataraskara Sahan Kara Vyantihi. It says one who can see the super soul sitting in the heart, next to the soul with all living entities. One becomes neither envious of superiors, one becomes equal amongst equals, meaning supportive amongst equals, not trying to compete, and a well-wisher to those who are inferior to us, meaning not as advanced spiritually. Because you can see this person has the super soul sitting in their heart within them. Life is perfect. Everything emanating from that perfect person is also perfect. So this world has to be perfect. If we're not seeing it in a perfect way, we do our imperfect vision. So this is why we need the Shastra, the scripture, so we can see. If we see Shastra Chakshus, this eyes of the scripture, we're not going to be radioed by anything because you understand clearly what's going on. So that you can see that this person who's in a much more advanced position, these great qualities, these nice traits, or whatever it may be, it's hard for his past activities. He was rewarding for his devotional service. He's rewarding him for everything. He's chastising him for his offenses. His devotees responding in a proper way and making advancements still. So everybody has their own personal relationship with the Lord, and Krishna's dictating from within as this changing goal, super soul. So therefore, you see, okay, I have my position, I have my past. sinful behaviors, tendencies. This person, I don't know what he has going on. So you respect that. Sensitive to those opinions who have these qualities we want to develop. Sure to those who are on an equal platform and be friends and relate in that way. And to those who are struggling, just received. Receive. It's like a stream with flowing water. It's always replenishing and stays clean. This devotee, what's his name, Jacob? You just told me if you're from Colorado, right? There's a lot of nice running streams there, yeah? Can you imagine a stream that gets blocked up and it's no longer running clean? What usually happens? It becomes stagnant, it becomes dirty. So similarly, if we're receiving all this mercy and we're not sharing it in some way, some form, very easily it can become stagnant. But the more mercy that we receive and the more that we give, then very easily Krishna just wants to give more and more mercy. It's just a few thoughts. Anybody has any comments or questions or thoughts?
And in several texts, there is a repetition of certain things. So thank you for opening my eyes and saying that there's different perspectives on, and that's the reason they repeat things so often, especially Krishna. Because today in the morning we read a shloka about lust, how it leads. It's acquired from the attachment to the modes of passion, I believe, and then it leads to wrath. And then previously we had also read something very similar about lust as well, which it leads to bewilderment of memory, and then we fall back down. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we can imagine if we're having a conversation about something really deep with a friend that we don't really know about. Like intricate in detail. Krishna's doing the same thing. That's why chapter 2 is called Contents of the Gita Summarized. So it pretty much covers the basis of the Gita. Krishna's to ask relevant questions, which is key. You could be the best speaker in the world sitting up here, and you could speak and speak and speak, and it could be very impactful. If there's not sitting, hearing, and asking questions, trying to understand deeper. And that person, they could speak further, speak more.
Can't hear it on the. No, it's not like. They said they could hear it on. They said they could hear it on. They can hear the blue one. They can hear the blue one, but they can't hear it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, hopefully this is better. But in the Srimad Bhagatam in the beginning, it talks about how And Suta Goswami is able to speak in a much elaborate detail because the audience is very qualified. Because they are very learned transcendentalists also. So he asking questions, relevant questions. Imagine if I go speak into like a class, I'm a math teacher, and I go to like a second grade class, it can be very, very simple. But you go to high school, then you could speak a little bit more in depth. You go to college, you speak more in depth. So somebody speaking, you could gauge by the questions they ask. You could see how much further should I get into this. Just give like an overview. Okay, that's it. Arjuna, he heard this and he asked questions and he tried to understand, and Krishna elaborated. And to the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says, probably my favorite part. Okay, that's all. That's all you need to do. And you deliver it and you act. So Krishna, he's never demanding, you must do this. This is the only way. You're going to go to heaven if you don't do this. This isn't Krishna. Krishna is our everywhere wisher. He knows that by us doing his service. It's not for his benefit. What does Krishna have to gain? Krishna's Atma. He's fully satisfied, fully complete in himself. He can expand to innumerable living entities. He's already complete. So serving Krishna is just his mercy for us to be completely satisfied. Okay. I'll keep reading unless somebody else has another point. Eternal.
Just a small point, that verse that you nicely quoted from the Bhagavatam, it reminded me of almost verbatim when Rupa Goswami is describing the qualifications of Madhyama Adhikari.
How so?
Well, yeah, basically, Madhyama Adhikari can see where others are at, and he can preach according to. He can be friendly with the devotees who are on the same level. He can be merciful to the ones that are, on a lower level spiritually, and he can pay his respects to the person who is on a higher level spiritually. Without being able to see where somebody's at, it's very, very difficult to do any preaching work, and it's difficult to relate with devotees as well. Just a small thought that I thought of when you quoted that verse.
It actually reminds me. All these things, but it's the Ishavanshad and Prabhupada mentioned the basis of these different adhikaris. He was like the actual words, he was just describing what they were, mentioning that to a friend. You can see like where people are at. Like they couldn't understand it at all. I thought I knew what I did at the time, but it's so nice that Krishna consciousness is presented in a scientific way, and if we understand it, then we could see it that way. So then we could see, okay, these devotees, they have a donation, they come just for the auntie. It's their position. See other devotees, they come and maybe they're not fully engaged living at the temple, but they respect and praise the devotees living at the temple. They respect because they're like, wow, these devotees are actually like giving everything to serve the Lord. There's different stages within these stages. You can see devotees who are living at the temple trying to give everything. Even on the platform, which they might step down from just for the point of preaching, just for the that they've received. That's a really nice point. Yes, Magadhari, Prabhu.
You quoted in connection with text 31, the Brahman conception, that the super soul is within and that life is perfect Vishishyate, some shloka from the Ishopanishad. And then you said, if we can't see it as perfect, then our vision is imperfect. But if everything is perfect, why is my vision imperfect? Because the Lord gives us independence. You can choose to align yourself with reality, or you can choose to illusion, creation of reality, which we call the false ego. And the basis of the false ego is your mind. This is the disease. So we see things in relation to me. This is mine. I want this. I gotta do this. I'm not happy. I should be happy. All based around a false conception of self. You see that? I'm sure you think further. We choose to turn away from the body because we think pleasure will be there. It's due to ignorance only. So then, talk of Krishna consciousness, some excitement, some thrill, some bliss, some nectar, we do some service. This thing is still fun. Isn't actually so fun anymore. It's stress, I think, pain. So when we give more to service, surrender. Okay, yeah, this it's definitely not helping anything anymore. These are definitely not traits, not qualities. And this goes to serve Krishna's everything, and we serve Krishna because Krishna is perfect and has everything working accordingly. And the only problem is that we don't trust in Krishna, we don't put in faith in Krishna. So Krishna so mercifully arranges these situations. It's to be taking shelter of the process, taking shelter of the temple, of the association of the devotees of the Guru. We do commit these insensible activities due to our past desires or desires. Just adds stress. It's Srila Prabhupada talking with his disciples about different philosophers and religionists throughout time, and Prabhupada's comparing it to, our philosophy, the Vedic philosophy. In one, I think Prabhupada was talking about, I forget why he mentioned it, but basically what he mentioned was that happiness lies within having a clear mind. And as a devotee, it should be a very easily thing to pinpoint. So that, and for me, I might not have a higher taste of, okay, we're going to go serve the deities, we're going to go do the service, we're going to do, but fixed up and okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to chant Krishna. And it's transcendental knowledge, it's consciousness, your mind, you're sure what you're doing is the right thing. How come consciousness is one quality? It's focused. This is happiness because I'm not so distracted by these other branches of knowledge, these other branches of things that infinitely brings happiness. Faith happiness. So much problems. So just to take it. It's distress. It's about I spent this much time reading this thing about Krishna. So we need to world, so we think we use the best use of a bad bargain. We have to learn how to take care of my body properly. Some bodies will after sleep, some will sleep, some will exercise, some will different diets. And Prabhupada to different disciples saying they're affected by this problem. He said, okay, well, you take a look every evening, help you build strength. Okay, don't take this, don't take that. So you need to work with this machine, which Prabhupada used this word, this machine, to yourself in devotional service. Because when we try to artificially pronounce and move like the 6 Goswamis, we're living the truth every night. Sleep, just drink a handful of bubble milk for a couple of days. Sustain that. Keep increasing. It's just that.
So I thought I liked what you were saying. Content is repeated. It broadens, it gives them deeper understanding. And I was thinking, that it's like every verse or every day recently, whatever I hear, it's all about hearing. And I don't know, maybe I was just missing it before. But it's like all I'm hearing about is how you should be hearing this transcendental topics. And yesterday was an auspicious day involving Ramananda Rai. I forgot whether it was the disappearance or appearance.
I think it was the disappearance.
The disappearance day. And I recently read, or I heard from teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the little discussion of the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that, they have a discussion which is just so deep. And at the end of it all is that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is recommending that we should be hearing from the devotees of Krishna. We should hear from the spiritual master. So, and it's just like that one point is being reverberated in all Prabhupada's purports and everything that is going on. So I was just kind of reflecting that, you know, Krishna is giving it to me from every angle, just so I can make it important in my desires, and revamp my desires. And it's just really merciful, you know, that Krishna, he will just do that. He does that in the Gita and many topics, but in our own devotional service, he'll also personally hand feed us exactly the same, or the points that we need to learn until we get it. Just a comment.
And what would we do if we're not hearing transcendental knowledge? Like, I think, what would we do? And I'd say this in a way like, we're not hearing now 24/7. No, we're not times throughout the day we may not be hearing, or spacing out. So, should be good, should not be good. So you should do this, you should do that. You mentioned this conversation with Lord Chaitanya and Magadhari. So Lord Chaitanya saying, we should be followers of the gopis of Raj. Why? Because they have the most love of Krishna. They will do anything for Krishna. So similarly, we should follow in the footsteps of the great devotees, Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas. Make a rapid advancement. It's going to make one of the beginning. Oh yeah. I think it's the 5th verse of the 2nd chapter in Srimad Bhagatam. I really like the full part. It's like one of my favorites for some reason. But Sutta Goswami is replying to the sages in Nansharanya and saying that yes, these questions that you asked are great because they're relevant because they deal with the welfare of everybody because they pertain to Krishna. These questions about Krishna are the highest. Srila Prabhupada mentions how we're asking questions and getting answers. Squares, we're asking questions, answers. And the warriors, they wake up, there's questions, there's answers. The street sweeper, everybody, there's questions and answers. Always on their mind, there's questions and answers, questions and answers. Oh, maybe I should do it like this. Can I do it like that? Or if I go like this and go there and do this, then everything will be good. So then Srila Prabhupada makes the point that, only these questions and answers that are relating to the absolute truth, Shri Krishna, it's the only thing that can actually satisfy the soul. So, and when we ask questions and answers, like I mentioned, that might deal with my body or things and service. Because questions and answers that are directly in relation to Lord Krishna, this is what actually brings satisfaction. So, okay, everybody, thank you for hearing and participating in Srimad Bhagavad Gita class. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Nitai Guru Shakapataru Bishak Sandhi Chakti Tanam